He says, I would take Garrett and Breece as a top receiver running back tandem over almost any other team. They're certainly in the conversation, right? I mean, how many teams have an elite wide receiver and running back tandem?
I would say elite. You got Detroit with Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have, I guess you could put Saquon, and depending on how you feel about Devontae Smith, you got Christian McCaffrey. They don't really have an elite. They don't really have an elite wide receiver out there. You got Bijan and Drake London, and then honestly, that's about it. That's about it. It's funny. I'm going to send you a link right here. Connor Long, our boy Connor Long, that filled in for Jake, posted an article because CBS ranked the Jets, their triplets, Geno Smith, Breece Hall, and Garrett Wilson, as the 29th offensive trio in the NFL. So, I mean, the disrespect just keeps coming, Jake. And there's only one way to stop it.
Something they haven't done very well the last 15 years and even 10. I think the crazier stat is they haven't won more than 7 in a decade. I think by accident you could have an 8-8 or now an 8-9 in there, and the Jets can't do it.
Fall into it. I think the playoffs, 15 years without making the playoffs, is just egregious, especially on a league that's basically built on parity. And the worst teams, the worse you are, the better player you get. And for some reason, everyone's been able to turn this around except for the Jets.
It's unbelievable.
You have to try to be this bad.
It's crazy. Dude, Daniel Jones made the playoffs, 9-7-1, won a playoff game.
Yeah. I mean, the Carolina Panthers won their division at 8-9 last year, I believe. So
remember, the Panthers are the worst organization in sports, worst owner, David Tepper, can't do anything.
Firing coaches, doing everything. They're right back into the playoffs, man. So
prove us wrong, Aaron Glenn. Prove us wrong. Ozzy in for one. His membership went to Wyatt1828. Ricky NY checking in. A.D. Mitchell, wide receiver 2, 62 receptions, 843 yards, 8 touchdowns, plays 95% of the snaps. If A.D. Mitchell does this, combined with Sadiq and still another first to come from the Colts, we're talking about potentially an all-time trade the Jets made in the Sauce Gardner deal last year.
Yeah, the over-under that a lot of people have been asking me for A.D. Mitchell has been, 850. I'm right there with you, Ricky. I love that. I don't know about the touchdowns, but the receptions and the yardage, I would sign up for that. I would sign up for that production with only 4 touchdowns, to be honest. And I think that his skill set, and I've talked about this already, Jake, I think his skill set could really unlock the offense. Because if you have that deep threat and you have to, roll over help to make sure that your corners aren't getting beat deep, that leaves the middle of the field and that underneath and the intermediate stuff wide open. And that's where Garrett Wilson feasts. And that's where Omar Cooper is going to feast as well, too. And then you have 2 tight ends. So A.D. Mitchell, and I love the concerted effort that Geno's going to develop that rapport with A.D. Mitchell. So I think I always try to do this. I like A.D. Mitchell isn't going to be some 1,300-yard receiver like some people are getting hyped, and he's not going to be, a 400-yard receiver. He's going to be somewhere in the middle, and that's totally fine. We have to stop setting ourselves up for failure. We can be cautiously optimistic, guys. But I think, shout out to Ricky. I saw him on the show yesterday. I think that's a great stat line for A.D. Mitchell.
That would be fantastic. I mean, sign me up for that, Ricky. I hope you're right. I know you're Mr. Optimistic. That'd be awesome.
If I'm not mistaken, that would be like the best wide receiver 2 season since Decker, right?
It's a great question.
Or maybe it was the Devontae.
Well, I guess Garrett and Devontae.
Yeah, Garrett and Devontae. Yeah.
But that's unique because you're talking about a Hall of Fame player being added. So let's throw that year out. That would be the best number 2 wide receiver since maybe Jermaine Kearse with Robbie Anderson, the McCown year.
Okay. Yep. That's up there. Yeah.
Another one I'm missing.
Maybe Santana Moss and Lavernius when they were here together. I know that
Cotry and Coles had some good years.
Cotry and Coles.
Sanchez with Braylon and Holmes, and they had the trio, obviously, with Cotry. But, yeah, I mean, at least in the playoff drought era of Jets football, it'd be like that Curse year with Robbie Anderson emerging, and then maybe like the Corey Davis and Garrett play enough together because he was always hurt. Corey Davis then retired.
Yeah. I don't think they played enough because Zach's first year, it was Corey Davis and Curse, right?
Was
his
Corey
first year
Davis
here.
and who was Zach's number 2? Dude?
Was it Brashard Perryman? No,
Yeah,
no,
well,
I'm
that
not.
was Sam Darnold.
That was Sam Darnold.
God, this team is brutal.
I know. Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll do a top 10 wide receiver 2 seasons in the playoff drought era.
July
I won't
Jets
be
content,
depressed.
baby.
I know.
The Jake Asman Show is now presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a daily fantasy app made simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players' projections and build your lineup in seconds. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And PrizePicks is already offering NFL futures, including futures for New York Jets players. Take a look at the lineup that you see on the screen. Garrett Wilson, more than 4.5 reception touchdowns. David Bailey, he's going to have at least 7 sacks his rookie year. Arvell Reese, almost a Jet. I think he'll have at least 3 sacks in his rookie year with the Giants. That is a 3-pick power play, $10 to pay out $60. That is just an example of some of the lineups you can make over at PrizePicks. Make your own lineups today for any sport. Just download the PrizePicks app, use the code HMA, and get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. You told me a story off air that is so funny. Please tell the Asmaniac community about your interaction with Frankie on Saturday.
So I'm going to preface this with saying Frankie and I know each other. All right, we've done some work. I covered the combine for U Stadium, so Frankie and I we're cool. So you guys know that Frankie's extremely passionate about David Bailey, the number 2 overall pick. Frankie went on a campaign, and I believe that he is trademarked Bailey Bros Inc. So I think Frankie is the CEO of Bailey Bros Inc. So myself, Richie from Jets Media does a great job, and Amanda. We're all, we're trying to get some cover. It was raining, so shout out to Asmaniacs and Jets fans because it was raining the entire time and we just pushed through and powered through. So Frankie comes over to tell us, like, hey guys, listen, are you guys ready for David Bailey? And I was like, yeah, we are. He's kind of going under the radar. So Frankie's like, no, are you guys ready for David Bailey? Frankie proceeds to get into a 2-point stance and say, the get off. I love his get off. He's going to get off. Frankie hits me with a rip move. He's feeling it. So Frankie's the juice is flowing. He starts talking about David Bailey, the analytical profile, how good he's going to be, one of the best edge prospects in the last 10 years. And Frankie's cooking. I'm like, yeah, go Frank. And then he starts talking about the academics, how smart of a person David Bailey is, the IQ. He went to Stanford, as you all know. Frankie's told you guys this a bunch of times. Comes from a smart family. His brother went to Harvard. Frankie's told you this a bunch of times. Then he starts talking. He looks at me. He goes, Omari knows Nigerian families, all about academics, which is true, by the way. I have a lot of Nigerian friends. So Frankie goes, Omari knows because he's Nigerian. I was like, I'm not Nigerian, Frankie, but keep cooking. You're doing a great job. You got to give your guys encouragement. He stops. Yes, you are. I said, no, Frankie, I promise you I'm not, but keep going. You're doing a great job, buddy. He stops. No, Omar, you told me you're Nigerian. I said, Frankie, I would never tell you that because I'm Jamaican. Dumbfounded, completely lost. I just give Frankie a little hug, and then he finished his David Bailey pitch. Listen, I hope that my kids believe in me the way Frankie believes in David Bailey. I hope that my parents believe in me the way that Frankie believes in David Bailey. We should all have someone in our lives that believe in us the way that Frankie V believes in David Bailey. All right? Because you need that type of support in your life. So Frankie V, shout out to you. And I hope the Bailey Bros go to the next level because David Bailey is everything that you hoped and dreamed for.
Omari, you're unreal. And Frankie V, you are one of one. Now, let's show everyone how a true professional does an interview at an event. Here's our guy, Omari, talking with Richie from Jets Media at HQ2.
How many wins do you have the New York Jets getting this season?
I got them at a strong 7. I got them going 7-10 because Richie, there's always going to be those 50-50 games in the league, right? So I have the Jets. I think there's about 4 swing games, and I got the Jets winning 2 of those. So 7-10, we're going to start building towards something.
Realistically, I have 5 wins. Of course, I want them to get more. Looking at the roster, looking at the coaching that we have, we're definitely going to have more than 3 wins next year. I'm at 5. Hopefully we get a lot more.
Are you optimistic in Aaron Glenn at all? Because I feel like a lot of Jets fans are split about their overall optimism in him being the head coach.
I'm on the fence. So my belief level is about a 4 out of 10, right? Because at the end, they were tanking. But also, you got to remember, at the beginning of the year, they were trying to win games. So it's somewhere in between. He's not as bad as he was, and he's not as good as most people think he can be. The defense has to show something. They have to have an identity, and they have to be competitive. So I'm going to say a 4 out of 10 for Aaron Glenn.
Shout out to Chef Kev being interviewed by Richie as well. But Omari, I agree with you, man. I think, there's a lot to prove with the head coach. You hope he's not as bad as what we saw in year one, but there's legit concerns going into year two. And whether we agree with him being here or not, he is. And he's going to get a fair shake, I believe, with the current roster to be able to prove whether or not he deserves a third season.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And, some people, I got a lot of comments saying that I'm being a homer, I'm being delusional. But listen, I never thought, did he coach at a level that could have warranted being let go? Absolutely, Jake. And I agreed with you when you said that he probably should have been let go. It's him and Hugh Jackson. Those aren't lists that you want to be on. But also, Woody invested $60 million into this guy. And a lot of people believe in him. Players believe in him. So regardless of how I feel, how Jake feels, and majority of the fan base feels, he was going to get another opportunity, because you don't want to get into this cycle. We're already in a bad cycle of not making the playoffs. You don't want to get into a cycle of prematurely firing coaches every single time. And you also have to take a look at the landscape of who was going to be available. Who was going to come take over this job with the GM that you were going to inherit. Then you have to start the cycle all over again. Then you're coming in with new systems, even though they're technically doing that now with the head coaching staff. But again, I just try to remind people, a lot of guys wanted a CEO, and there's only 32 of these jobs in the world, and for good reason. So you're going to have some bumps. There's going to be some hiccups. I'm sure he looked. I was talking to Chef Kevin. I was trying to talk him off the ledge. He was like, guys quit. They gave up. And he looked like he didn't know what he was doing on Sundays. And again, he probably felt like a fish out of water, because you do have to learn as you go. And I tell people all the time, players need to be developed, but coaches need to be developed too. And it does take time. Todd Bowles, struggled with game management and clock management. Robert Saleh, almost up until the end, struggled with clock management. You guys remember Aaron Rodgers letting the play clock run down to 3 to 2 seconds almost every time, and them having to call timeouts in San Fran and in Tennessee. So it is going to happen. So I think, and then he did things that people wanted, that fans wanted him to do. They actually tanked. Now, people got mad because he said that Brady Cook is an NFL quarterback, but what is he supposed to say? You guys wanted him to fire Steve Wilks before the year was over. He fired Steve Wilks. And I understand how he came in and he talked bad about the previous coaching staff, and I didn't agree with that. I thought I'm definitely an under promise and over deliver type of person. That's how I try to live my life. But again, he didn't do that. But I tell people all the time, he said that he wanted to come in and win now, and his wide receiver 2 was either Allen Lazard, Josh Reynolds, and Tyler Johnson. So I'm not really sure. And Justin Fields was his quarterback. So I'm not really sure how much winning he wanted to do. So I'm never going to tell fans to be patient, because fans use their hard-earned money. And a lot of these fans have been a fan longer than some of us, Jake and I, have been alive. So I'm never going to tell you how to be a fan. Like one of my monikers is fan exactly how you want a fan. So again, I just think that we'll be able to properly judge him by how this defense looks this first quarter of the season. And I've said this a million times, Jake, if they are not top 12 against the run, if they're not an opportunistic and aggressive defense, then Aaron Glenn will never be a head coach again in this league, because you brought in guys to do exactly what he needs you to do. And you brought in veterans. You saw David Onyemata, Demario Davis, and Minkah Fitzpatrick are not guys that need to develop. They need to hit the ground from day one, and they need to hit the ground running. And a lot of that's going to come on Aaron Glenn. So we can be patient with the offense in terms of cohesiveness, but on defense, you guys got to run and hit, and you have to know where the hell you have to be. And I think that there's going to be zero excuses. And he has a must-win week 1. And if I'm down in Nashville, Jake and I will be on the post game telling you that Aaron Glenn is officially on the hot seat if they start off 0-1 to a Robert Saleh-led team.
It's just tough to picture them losing week 1 and then recovering before they put themselves in such a hole. We're going through last year all over again. I don't know if it's 0-7 again, but I mean, you lose week 1, schedule doesn't get easy. Packers at home, Lions and Bears. Maybe the Browns in week 5 is like their first win if they start 0-4. Then Patriots. I mean, a 1-5 start. I mean, they lose to the Dolphins and the Raiders, and they drop to 1-7. Does Aaron Glenn coach the Chiefs game?
I mean, I don't think so. The only reason why I don't think so is because I'm of the mindset is if we have to go through this, you have to go through this as well too, because you're being paid handsomely for it, and you're going to be paid for 3 years after this. So if we have to go through this and watch this every Sunday, you have to suffer with us too. We're all going to be a part of this humiliation ritual. But I'm with you, and I don't even understand how people were actually going against you, Jake. Week 1 is definitely a must win after the way this season ended, because listen, just imagine the difference in mindset if you start off 1-0 and then the Jets are coming home and we're ready to go for the home opener against the Packers. So the Packers, if you guys go look at the Packers depth chart, they're not, they're not your grandfather or your dad's Packers. Like there's some chinks in the armor. They still have Jordan Love, and I'm a big fan of Matt LaFleur, but Aaron Glenn has done a good job against Matt LaFleur, and he's held their offenses in check as well too. You look at those Rodgers years when everyone really started questioning if Rodgers had anything left. Those were Aaron Glenn led defenses. So is Josh Jacobs? We haven't heard any word on Josh Jacobs. Is Josh Jacobs going to play? We know Micah Parsons is going to play. Their second best edge rusher now is rushing the passer in Dallas. So there's some chinks in that armor.
I mean,
start off 2-0. Start off 2-0. Surprise us.
That's what you got to do if you want to give yourself a season. You got to be a team that surprises, a team that, punches above their weight. And if you start to win, we saw this in 2022 until, unfortunately, Mike White got hurt, because I truly believe that team was going to the postseason if Mike White didn't suffer the injury against the Bills and the Jets had to go back to Zach Wilson. Like, you kind of learn how to win as you build confidence. Like that was a younger team, but they were starting to build some confidence. Like, we actually are this good. Like, we actually can win. They were 6-3. They had a huge upset win over Aaron Rodgers and the Packers in Green Bay. And it's like, wow, like, okay, like we have something here. And that was in Saleh's second year. Aaron Glenn's in his second year. There's no excuse. Is Aaron Glenn ever going to be 3 games above 500 at any point while he's the Jet head coach? Like, Saleh did that in his second year. And I'm not, celebrating a 7-10 season because they collapsed, but that's just to show you, like, everyone thinks Saleh is terrible. Well, they were 6-3 and 7-4 with Mike White and Zach Wilson as his quarterback. Joe Flacco. I mean, come on.
That's interesting that you say that, Jay, because I completely agree. You have to learn how to win. And that core that just left, that was their, and it's sad to say, that was kind of like their genesis, right? That was like their peak. That big win over Rodgers, Sauce wearing the cheese head. And again, it went right to hell right after that, because we lose AVT, we lose Breece Hall, Mike White gets hurt. It's just extremely unfortunate. So again, the mindset for this team to where it's like, oh, here we go again. And I'm not saying that they're all mentally weak, because I think that they've gotten some of that bad element out of the locker room. But it's just starting 1-0 as opposed to going 0-1 and having to go through the whole week. And then you got the fans going to be on you, and it's just like the first 3 and out of the home opener. The fans are going to be on Geno. I think that you can just do so much in terms of, good feeling if you just start off 1-0. And I mean, if you just go down there, even if it's a tight game, because I think it's going to, I already told you, Jake, I think it's going to be 24-17, and David Bailey is going to ice the game with a sack. So that's just what I'm having. And just think about how it's going to be. The Asmaniacs, we're going to do a live show down there. Jets walk in there, smack around Mr. Clean and his new team. Let's do it.
Hey, here's the deal. Just got no chance unless you click on that like button. And you got to make sure you subscribe to the Jake Asman Show. You don't, you can get the f*** out. Now let's go, Asmaniacs. We're built for this shit.